The Appalachian towns emerge as a quiet expanse where a slow rhythm blends with nature, creating a deeply serene atmosphere. Here, time does not stand still, but moves in its own way, slow, layered, allowing each moment to become more defined. These small towns do not try to impress, yet their simplicity gives every detail a sense of weight and lasting presence. Sound here is not noise, but a shaped silence, where wind, wood, and earth speak in their own subtle language. People here exist as part of the landscape, not separate, not hurried, simply continuing in a natural and unbroken flow. Leaving Appalachia, you carry no specific image, only a state of being, a quiet rhythm that lingers within. Damascus is defined not by its size, but by its role as a junction of long-distance journeys. Located in a narrow valley in Washington County, Virginia, the town is a meeting point for major trails such as the Appalachian Trail and the Virginia Creeper Trail. It is surrounded by the Iron Mountains and the Great Smoky Mountains, with Laurel Creek flowing rapidly through steep limestone terrain, creating a space that is open to movement, yet constrained by mountains. Across the seasons, the landscape of Damascus changes continuously. Spring spreads green along the trails. Summer increases humidity and water flow. Autumn colors the forest in red and orange, and winter exposes the bare structure of slopes and wooden bridges as trees lose their leaves. The people here are resilient and open, accustomed to welcoming hikers from around the world. Clothing is practical, with hiking boots and layered outfits suited to shifting weather. Culture centers on outdoor life, especially the Trail Days festival. Local food emphasizes convenience and energy, including handmade sandwiches, stews, baked apple pies, along with craft beer and local juices. Damascus exists as a crossing point where journeys meet and then continue in different directions. How would you feel standing in a place where every path leads somewhere new? Are you ready to explore this place? Seen from the stone steps descending to the main street, Sylva appears as a space organized along a clear slope rather than spreading horizontally. Located in the center of Jackson County, North Carolina, this town is surrounded by the Plot Balsams and the Great Smoky Mountains, with Scotts Creek cutting across a narrow valley. The Jackson County Courthouse atop the hill creates a dominant high point that governs the entire spatial structure below. That space is shaped not only by geography, but also by historical upheavals marked by confrontation. From the late 19th century, Sylva developed thanks to the paper industry and the railroad, but stability did not last. The flood of 1940 destroyed infrastructure and contaminated water sources. Later, disputes surrounding the Confederate monument on the courthouse hill turned this place into a social hotspot, creating deep fractures within the community. Life in Sylva reflects a blend of labor and academia. Residents are straightforward, sometimes confrontational, yet still closely connected to the community. Clothing is practical, with jackets, durable pants, and flexible layers suited to the mountain climate. Culture revolves around independent bookstores, craft beer, and small social spaces. The cuisine stands out with vinegar-based spicy pulled pork, chicken biscuit sandwiches, and wild blueberry jam. From above, the Plot Balsams Range appears like a deep green wall enclosing the entire town, creating a sense of closure and isolation. As one approaches, Rows of red brick buildings along the main street reveal early 20th century architecture with solid and uniform layouts. The stone steps connecting the hilltop to the residential area are not just pathways, but also visual axes, where the solemnity of architecture blends with the rawness of the mountain forest. It is this combination that made Sylva a filming location for works such as 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. Sylva exists as a place where spatial structure and social conflict coexist. How would you feel standing in a town that carries both cinematic beauty and layers of unresolved tension? Are you ready to explore this land? Not every place is easy to access, and Ohiopyle is a clear example as it lies deep in southwestern Pennsylvania, at the center of the Laurel Highlands. At an average elevation of about 1,300 feet, this area is shaped by the fast-flowing Ugeogany River, cutting through sandstone ridges, forming a system of deep gorges, rapids, and dense forests covering the rugged terrain. The cuisine of Ohiopyle reflects the need to adapt to a harsh environment, where high-energy meals play a central role in daily life. Grilled meat sandwiches, minor-style stews, and pastries made from wild berries are common, while trout from the Ugeogany River is often grilled or fried as a local staple. Daily traditions revolve around outdoor activities such as rafting, hiking, and seasonal hunting. Clothing is practical, with thick flannel shirts, non-slip boots, and durable pants suited to steep terrain and changing weather. Since the 18th century, Ohiopyle has served as a strategic stop along westward expansion routes, with its name derived from the Lenape language, meaning white, foaming water. In 1754, George Washington confronted French forces at Fort Necessity and was forced to sign a surrender after a battle fought under harsh weather conditions. This defeat helped ignite the French and Indian War. By the early 20th century, after extensive logging depleted the forests, the region fell into economic decline, with famine and the abandonment of local communities. Amid the constant sound of rushing water, The landscape of Ohiopyle reveals itself in a direct and powerful way. Ohiopyle Falls cascades over a wide rock ledge, creating a mist that spreads across the surrounding space. Along Meadow Run, natural rock water slides, formed over thousands of years of erosion, create smooth, curved surfaces. Nearby, the Falling Water House extends over the waterfall, combining stone, concrete, and flowing water beneath it. When nature is not just a backdrop, but the force shaping everything around it, Ohiopyle becomes a place difficult to compare. How would you feel standing among water and rock like this? Are you ready to experience this landscape for yourself? The winding roads leading into Banner Elk often make people notice the change in elevation before they even catch sight of the town. The air becomes cooler, thinner, and the view opens vertically rather than horizontally. Nestled between Beech Mountain and Sugar Mountain, this area lies within one of the highest points in the eastern United States, with steep terrain, narrow valleys, and sheer cliffs that have always limited access. Alongside that history, mysterious disappearances of hunters and miners in the deep forests and caves around Beech Mountain are still recounted as part of a collective memory that remains difficult to explain. Earlier, pioneering families had settled here since the mid-19th century, maintaining a self-sufficient life amid harsh conditions. By 1940, prolonged rains completely altered the structure of the land as water rushed down the mountain slopes, carrying debris and destroying bridges and roads, isolating Banner Elk for several weeks. The Woolly Worm Festival takes place annually as a natural observation ritual passed down through generations, where locals rely on the color patterns of caterpillars to predict the severity of the upcoming winter. Gatherings often revolve around stories of weather and subtle environmental signs that may signal major changes. From this foundation, people here have developed a lifestyle based more on experience and observation than on technology. On the table, dishes such as mountain-style stewed chicken, cornbread baked on stone, and fruit wine made from wild berries clearly reflect the need to retain heat and make full use of available resources on steep mountain slopes. Winter arrives early and lasts long. As snow blankets the mountain peaks, strong winds blow, and temperatures drop sharply, making the entire area quiet and nearly isolated. As the snow begins to melt, spring emerges slowly, with pale green spreading across the hillsides and lightly humid air. Summer brings a more comfortable feeling, with deep green forests and morning mist. By autumn, the entire area shifts into shades of red, orange, and yellow, creating a clear transformation in color and light. Living in an environment where every change begins with nature, people are compelled to adjust their rhythm of life to each specific condition. Are you ready to adapt to a place where you do not control the environment, but the environment shapes you? There are places that do not stand out at first glance, but the deeper you go, the more layers of history and landscape reveal themselves in a distinct way. Elkins is one of them. Located deep within the Allegheny Mountains in West Virginia, this town sits along the Tygart Valley River, nestled within the Monongahela National Forest, with a basin-like terrain surrounded by high mountains and dense forests, making it feel both isolated and, at the same time, a connecting point between highland valleys. Rather than being seen from a fixed point, Elkins becomes clearer as you move through it. Vintage steam trains along the mountain rail slowly cling to steep cliffs, revealing slices of the rugged mountain landscape below. Then, the Hallihurst and Graceland mansions appear on the hills, massive and still, like remnants of a period of extreme wealth. And as you go deeper, the Monongahela National Forest takes over, with trails weaving through limestone caves and clear streams where nature is gradually recovering after years of uncontrolled exploitation. Elkins was not formed naturally, but constructed through ambition. Two U.S. Senators, Stephen Benton Elkins and Henry Gassaway Davis, transformed a wild mountainous region into an industrial center through railroad networks and large-scale logging and coal extraction. But the cost came quickly. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Big Cut took place. Massive old-growth forests were cut down, triggering flash floods and wildfires that reshaped the entire ecosystem. And when resources ran out, the Great Depression arrived, leaving thousands of workers unemployed, with abandoned towns and decaying sawmills scattered deep in the forest. The people of Elkins carry the spirit of mountain laborers, self-reliant, resilient, and deeply connected to both community and the surrounding environment. They do not simply live in this space, but actively preserve traditions through music and festivals. The sound of fiddle and banjo, characteristic of Appalachian old-time music, still exists in everyday life, not on stage, but within daily routines. The Mountain State Forest Festival is held annually to honor survival skills and forest labor, from logging to transport and resource processing. The cuisine reflects this reality. Pepperoni rolls, stews made from wild chicken, and handcrafted maple syrup all emerge directly from a lifestyle tied to natural resources. Just a mountain town, Elkins exists as a layered sediment of ambition, loss, and regeneration, where humans and nature are still adjusting their relationship. Are you ready to step into a place where the past and present continue to exist together in such a tangible way? A small town wedged between steep cliffs, where the Lehigh River curves through narrow rock corridors. That is Jim Thorpe, located in the state of Pennsylvania, United States. Instead of expanding outward like many towns, this place develops along the vertical limits of its terrain, compressed between forest and mountain. That confinement creates something unusual, nearly isolated, and visually dramatic. Few people know that Jim Thorpe was once called Moch Chunk, meaning Bear Mountain in the Lenape language. In the 19th century, it became a critical hub of the coal industry, with the Switchback Railroad built to move resources across difficult terrain. Prosperity did not last. As coal declined, the town entered a period of economic collapse. In 1954, a controversial decision was made. The town was renamed after Jim Thorpe, and a mausoleum was constructed for him there. Alongside this, events such as the executions linked to the Molly Maguires and the 1862 flood left lasting marks on local memory. Seasonal festivals define the rhythm of life in Jim Thorpe. The Fall Foliage Festival brings waves of visitors drawn by the changing colors of the leaves, while old-time Christmas transforms the entire town into a 19th century setting filled with lights, music, and decorations. Food follows closely behind, reflecting the immigrant history of the region. Potato and cheese pierogies, heavily seasoned grilled meats, rye bread, and locally brewed craft beer. Beneath all of this lies a cultural foundation where residents maintain a strong connection to the past, preserving architecture, stories, and even the smallest details of the town. The first impression does not come from buildings, but from the land itself. Streets wind through rows of red brick structures, while steep mountain slopes rise sharply behind them, enclosing the town within a narrow space. In spring, fresh greenery softens the harsh terrain. Summer deepens the green tones and strengthens the river's flow, supporting rafting and exploration. Autumn turns the entire area into a vivid display of red, orange, and gold. Winter slows everything down, with light snow settling over rooftops and streets, creating a quiet and almost suspended atmosphere. This is not a place that reveals itself instantly. Jim Thorpe holds multiple layers of history, from prosperity to decline, from nature to human influence. What do you see when you arrive here? A scenic destination or a story that has yet to be fully understood? Hidden among the endless ridges of the Appalachian Mountains, Cass appears not like a town, but like a slice of time preserved. Situated at the foot of Bald Knob, along the Greenbrier River, and within Monongahela National Forest, it is enclosed by dense forests, steep mountain slopes, and deep valleys. It does not expand. It does not spread. Everything seems tightly held within this closed terrain. Life in Cass does not revolve around modernity, but around memory. Its festivals are tied to the sound of steam locomotives, logging skill competitions, and activities recreating the lives of lumberworkers. The cuisine emerges as part of that labor history. Biscuits and gravy with thick meat sauce, crispy fried chicken, pies made from wild berries, and especially pepperoni rolls, a convenient, energy-rich food once carried during long working days by miners and loggers. Beneath it all is a slow-living community, almost disconnected from the digital world. As Cass lies within the National Radio Quiet Zone, a vast area where radio signals, mobile phone waves, and Wi-Fi are strictly limited to support astronomical observatories, allowing life here to maintain a rare, quiet rhythm. Cass was not formed naturally like many other towns, but was purposefully built in 1901 by the West Virginia Pulp and Paper Company. It was a company town, where everything existed solely to serve the timber industry. The numbered 2-story wooden houses, the general store, the train station, all were designed to support workers of what was once the largest sawmill in the world. When resources were depleted in the 1960s, Cass faced the risk of disappearing entirely. Instead of being erased, the town was purchased and transformed into a heritage park. However, its history has not been peaceful. Fires at the sawmill in 1978 and 1982 destroyed many key structures. and the flood of 1985 caused severe damage to the railway system and riverside areas. Sound arrives before sight. The whistle of a train echoes from afar, then white plumes of smoke begin to appear through the forest. Vintage steam locomotives pull train cars uphill, slow but steady, heading toward Bald Knob. The higher you go, the more the space opens. Spring spreads a layer of fresh green over the mountain slopes. Summer thickens the forest canopy and mist rises from the valleys. Autumn transforms the entire region into a vibrant band of colors, while winter covers the tracks and wooden rooftops with snow, making everything fall silent, as if frozen in time. Cass does not try to become a modern destination. It exists as a remnant system of a bygone era. Standing here, you are looking into the past, yet that past is still in motion. What will you see in this place? A living museum, or a world that has been forgotten? Amid the contrasting terrain shifts of the state of Kentucky, there is a place not highly visible on the map, yet holding many layers of stories worth pausing for: Berea. Located on the edge of the Cumberland Plateau, where the flat bluegrass region meets the vast Appalachian Mountains, this town is surrounded by rolling hills, limestone plateaus, and expansive forests. A transitional landscape, yet distinctly unique. In 1859, a shocking event occurred when more than 60 armed militiamen forced Reverend John Gregg Fee and his supporters to leave this land within just 10 days because of anti-slavery beliefs. A purge. Then, in 1904, the Day Law was enacted, forcing educational institutions to segregate races, creating deep divisions within the community for decades. Before these events, Berea had been founded in the mid-19th century as a place promoting absolute racial equality, a rare ideal in American society at the time. The culture in Berea clearly reflects the people of the Appalachian region, known for resilience, strong community bonds, and exceptional craftsmanship in traditional trades such as weaving, pottery, and woodworking, where skills are not only learned but passed down through generations. The local cuisine carries a southern style with cornbread, wild fruit preserves, and most notably spoon bread at Boone Tavern, a soft, pudding-like dish that has become a regional culinary symbol. From a distance, the Appalachian Mountains appear like layered green waves fading into light mist, while the bluegrass region below stretches flat like a vast carpet. As you move closer, the hills become more defined, and the Berea forest gradually reveals dense canopies with deeper shades of green. And once inside, trails and the cliffs of the pinnacles emerge, tall, steep, opening up a wide view that makes the surrounding space feel expanded. A place that carries historical imprints while preserving its own identity. Berea is not just a destination, but a journey of experience. Are you truly ready to step into that journey? Mountain City sits within Doe Valley, where the Appalachian Mountains enclose nearly the entire living space of its residents. The basin-like terrain, high elevation, and steep mountain slopes shape a slower and more isolated pattern of development. Connections to the outside are consistently limited by the terrain itself, allowing the town to function almost as a self-contained system across different periods of history. By the 1980s, a series of murders involving the Potter family completely altered the already fragile sense of safety within the community. Earlier, major floods, especially in 1940, forced water down from the mountain slopes into the valley with destructive force, isolating Mountain City for weeks and causing severe food shortages. Further back, during the American Civil War, this area became a zone of internal conflict, as local residents, largely supporting the Union, directly confronted Confederate forces and other local militias. Music appears before stories are even told. Old-time melodies played on fiddle and banjo echo through small gatherings, on porches, or in enclosed spaces where performance is not the goal, but continuation. From this, the people emerge with clear traits: reserved, conservative, yet deeply tied to family and community. Woodworking and weaving remain part of daily life, not as commercial products, but as extensions of inherited practices. Alongside this, food reflects survival conditions. Smoked salted pork, white beans, cooked with pork hock and layered dried apple stack cake, all come from available resources and the need for long-term storage. The landscape of Mountain City shifts distinctly with each season, each bringing its own palette and weather patterns. Spring covers the valley in pale green tones, with vegetation returning under damp skies and persistent light rain, creating cool and slightly muted conditions. In summer, the green deepens and thickens, forests block much of the sunlight, humidity rises, and early morning fog frequently appears. Autumn transforms the area into shades of yellow, orange, and red, with falling temperatures and drier air, while the sky becomes clearer, sharpening the contrast with the surrounding mountain ranges. Winter removes most color, leaving gray rock and brown bare trees, with lower temperatures, dense fog, and occasional snow, making the valley feel even more enclosed and still. City exists as a system where terrain, history, and people continuously influence one another, forming a condition that is not easily altered. Are you ready to step into a place where isolation is not only geographic, but also a defining way of existence? Whitesburg is not large, not noisy, yet it is a place where nearly every disruption seems compressed into the same narrow space. Located deep in the Appalachian Mountains of Kentucky, this town is surrounded by the slopes of the Cumberland Plateau, with the North Fork River running through the valley. The terrain is enclosed, steep, and tight, making it both isolated and constantly vulnerable to natural forces. The coal trains that once passed through here did not just carry resources, they carried an entire era of dependence. From the mid-19th century, Whitesburg shifted from a small agricultural area into a coal town, where labor and inequality coexisted. But what accumulated eventually surfaced in the harshest way. In 2022, floodwaters from the North Fork rose so quickly that there was no time to react, sweeping away homes, destroying infrastructure, and leaving the town covered in mud. Before that, the Coal Wars had already made this place a center of conflict between miners and mine owners, while underground, mine collapses and black lung disease quietly stretched across generations. On the dining tables of Whitesburg, everything carries the mark of hard labor and a demanding life. Biscuits and gravy, Pinto beans cooked with salted pork and traditional gingerbread are not just dishes, but sources of energy necessary for enduring harsh working conditions. From there, the people become clear, individuals carrying the proud hillbilly identity, tightly bonded to their community and always finding ways to recover after disruption. Culture does not sit in museums, it exists in daily life. A pawn shop serves as a place preserving local voices through film and music, while the sound of banjo and folk songs continues in gatherings not for performance, but for preservation. Sound is what you notice before you can fully see Whitesburg. The flow of the North Fork River, sometimes soft, sometimes heavy, runs through the town like a constant rhythm. Looking up, Pine Mountain stretches like a massive wall, with layers of sandstone creating a sense of weight and pressure. Moving closer into the center, the Letcher County Courthouse appears with its solid stone structure, standing firm amid change. And in the middle of it all, the river continues to flow, calm in the present, yet always reminding of the force it once carried. Whitesburg does not try to stand out, yet it becomes one of the hardest places to forget after leaving. Are you ready to step into a place where every story has never truly ended? The brick streets of Abingdon have preserved their 18th century structure, stretching through the old district where time does not seem to move quickly. Surrounding this area are the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Allegheny Mountains, creating a space that feels both open in view and constrained by terrain. Near the headwaters of the Holston River, the town became an early point where people settled, built, and remained across generations. By 2011, an EF3 tornado swept through the area, destroying buildings and reshaping the landscape in a short time. Before that, in 1864, Union forces under General George Stoneman entered Abingdon, burning the train station, destroying food supplies, and leveling major structures, leaving the town nearly erased. Further back, it served as a gathering point for the over-mountain men, who crossed the mountains to fight in the Battle of Kings Mountain, helping shift the course of the American Revolution. And even earlier, the land was called Wolf Hills by Daniel Boone after his hunting party was attacked by wolves in 1760. An evening at the Barter Theatre is not simply attending a play, but continuing a tradition formed during the Great Depression, when residents exchanged produce and livestock for admission. Cultural life here operates in a distinct way, where art remains embedded in daily routines. The people of Abingdon reflect a blend of refinement and resilience. On the table, this balance appears through Virginia smoked ham, salted butter biscuits with wild apple jam, and dishes prepared from fish caught in the Holston River. Simple ingredients handled with deliberate care. Spring begins with a layer of light green spreading across the hills, with mild humidity and scattered rain creating a soft and fresh atmosphere. Summer deepens the green, with dense foliage filtering sunlight, higher temperatures, and occasional heaviness in the air. Autumn shifts the entire area into shades of red, orange, and yellow, with cooler temperatures, drier air, and clearer skies that sharpen the terrain. Winter reveals the underlying structure of the land, as trees lose their leaves, colors fade into gray and brown, and fog and occasional light snow settle over rooftops and roads. In Abingdon, traces of the past remain fully present in the current space, without needing reconstruction or retelling. Are you patient enough to stand in a place where history has never truly left? As the road gradually leads you into the mountains of northeast Tennessee, Jonesborough appears as a space set apart, where every detail feels as though it has existed for a very long time. This town sits at an average elevation of about 1,640 feet. Surrounded by rolling hills and fertile valleys, with small streams flowing toward the Nolichucky River, opening views toward the mist-covered Appalachian Mountains in the distance. The year 1779 marked the emergence of Jonesborough, at a time when this land did not yet belong to an official U.S. state, and it would take another 17 years before Tennessee was recognized. In its early period, it served as the capital of the short-lived state of Franklin, following the American Revolution. By 1788, political tensions escalated into violence, with armed clashes and arrests occurring within the town, ultimately leading to the collapse of this government. Moving into the 19th century, Jonesborough became a focal point of controversy when the first abolitionist newspaper in the United States was published here, triggering strong opposition and severe consequences during the Civil War, including raids and prolonged food shortages. At the very center of the town, the International Storytelling Center operates as a gathering point of memory and culture, where storytelling festivals take place throughout the year and attract participants from many regions. From this space, storytelling traditions extend into everyday life, becoming part of the local identity. Residents of Jonesborough live at a slower pace, closely connected to their community and maintaining family values across generations. At the same time, it draws artists and those seeking quiet. In its cuisine, fried chicken, buttery biscuits, smoked pork, and sweet tea are not simply dishes, but expressions of Southern culture preserved over time. Among the red brick streets, the sense of time seems to stretch in a way that is difficult to define. Rows of Federal, Greek Revival, and Victorian-style houses stand side by side, while the Chester Inn, built in 1797, remains in place as a fixed marker of the past. Surrounding everything are the Appalachian Mountains, where light mist drifts over rooftops, blurring the boundary between present and memory. The space does not expand horizontally, it deepens through time. If there is a place where history does not remain in books, but exists directly on every street, then Jonesborough is a clear example. How do you feel standing before a town like this? Are you ready to come here and experience it for yourself? There are places remembered for beauty, and there are places defined by what happened beneath their surface. Dahlonega belongs to the latter. Located in northern Georgia, this town sits within the Blue Ridge Mountains of the Appalachian system, where the terrain is carved by deep valleys, fast-flowing streams, and quartz veins rich in minerals. A landscape that seems quiet, but underneath, a history that never truly settled. Before the name Dahlonega became known, what happened here had already altered the fate of an entire region. The gold rush of 1829 erupted, drawing thousands of people and turning the mountainsides into relentless excavation zones. But behind that surge came a devastating consequence: the Trail of Tears, when the Cherokee were forcibly removed from their homeland to make way for gold extraction. A forced march, a tragedy. Later, during the Civil War, the area became isolated. Mines were shut down, food supplies were cut off, and survival became increasingly fragile. If you look at the festival calendar of Dahlonega, you will notice that the past has not been erased, but systematically reconstructed. Each year, the Gold Rush Days Festival transforms the entire central square into a recreated 19th century environment, where manual gold panning, metal forging, and traditional mining techniques are demonstrated not merely for entertainment, but to replicate the survival skills of early miners. Craft stalls display weaving, pottery, and wood carving, while bluegrass music is continuously performed using banjo, fiddle, and acoustic guitar in traditional structure. Food remains unchanged. Freshly baked biscuits, oak-smoked meats, and wild fruit preserves. A festival, but functioning as a living system of memory. In spring, the slopes of the Blue Ridge Mountains shift into fresh green tones. Streams swell with water and rush through rocks and forest, producing a continuous sound. In summer, the landscape becomes denser. Forests block much of the light. The air turns humid and heavy, and Cane Creek Falls flows powerfully beneath thick canopy. In autumn, the transformation becomes unmistakable. Leaves turn yellow, orange, and red, spreading across the slopes like layered fabric. And in winter, when fog thickens and trees stand bare, the mountains reveal their raw structure, while the town below becomes quiet, almost detached from surrounding movement. A place that carries historical imprints while preserving its identity. Dahlonega is not simply a destination, but a space where memory, landscape, and human experience coexist. Are you ready to step into a place where every layer of ground holds an untold story? Nestled along the Potomac River, Shepherdstown appears as a place where geography and history exist side by side. The town lies in the Shenandoah Valley at an elevation of about 500 feet above sea level, surrounded by the Appalachian Mountains, with rolling hills and limestone terrain forming underground streams, and a stable riverside landscape over time. Along the old stone-paved streets, the sense of space in Shepherdstown often feels quiet, yet heavy with memory. Rows of 18th and 19th century houses stand beneath large maple trees, while from above, a bend of the Potomac River reveals remnants of old bridge piers, still rising from the water. Trails along the C and O Canal run parallel to the river, creating a continuous view between nature and traces of history. Established in 1762, Shepherdstown developed as one of the earliest settlements in the region, originally named Mecklenburg, before being renamed in honor of Thomas Shepherd. In 1787, James Rumsey tested a steamboat here, marking a key advancement in transportation history. However, during the American Civil War, the town became a site of crisis, when after the Battle of Antietam in 1862, thousands of wounded soldiers were brought here, turning every building into a field hospital. Surgeries, disease, and famine continued for months. Cultural life in Shepherdstown revolves around contemporary theatre festivals, folk music, and the presence of Shepherd University, creating a space where academic influence and community life coexist. Clothing remains practical and adaptable, with light jackets, sweaters, and footwear suited for movement across low hills. In cuisine, West Virginia-style sausage sandwiches, apple pies, and nut-based baked goods are common, reflecting a blend of tradition and modern living. A place where the past does not disappear, but remains present in every detail, invites deeper reflection. How would you feel standing in such a quiet, yet history-filled space? Are you ready to explore Shepherdstown for yourself? Let's step into a journey to explore Mentone, a small town hidden atop Lookout Mountain Plateau in Alabama, United States, at an average elevation of about 1,800 feet above sea level. This area lies within the highest part of the state, with towering sandstone cliffs and the little river stretching over 100 miles as it winds below, creating a distinctly isolated landscape. The name Mentone was inspired by the town of Mentone in France, evoking the sound of streams flowing through mountainous terrain. Before the 19th century, this land was home to the Cherokee people until waves of settlement reshaped its population. In 1838, the forced relocation, known as the Trail of Tears, took place, driving thousands of Cherokee from their homeland under brutal conditions, leading to many deaths from exhaustion and disease. Nearly 2 centuries later, another loss struck when the Mentone Springs Hotel, built in 1884, was completely destroyed by fire in 2014. It disappeared overnight. From these changes, Mentone gradually became a community deeply rooted in Appalachian culture, stretching along the Appalachian Mountains in the eastern United States, where self-sufficient living and a close relationship with nature have been preserved across generations. residents move at a slower pace, valuing independence and maintaining traditions through folk music, craftsmanship, and local festivals. It has also become a gathering place for artists and those seeking quiet. On the table, smoked meats, Southern-style cornbread, along with fruit preserves and wild honey, reflect a way of life built on mountain resources. The first steps along the stone paths around Mentone often bring a sense of near-total silence. Dense forests cover the mountain slopes, while DeSoto Falls drops from over 100 feet, forming a white cascade against deep green surroundings. Each movement through DeSoto State Park reveals a shift in space, from cliffs and caves to rustic log cabins hidden beneath old trees. The landscape opens in depth, not width. A place where nature, history, and human life are so closely intertwined leaves a lasting impression. How do you feel about Mentone? Are you ready to come here and experience this rare stillness for yourself? Not every place is defined by beauty. Some are defined by conflict, and Harper's Ferry is one of them. Located at the meeting point of the Potomac and Shenandoah rivers, this town sits exactly at the border of 3 states, West Virginia, Maryland, and Virginia, trapped between the steep cliffs of the Blue Ridge Mountains and the fast-flowing water below. A position, but like a natural bottleneck that cannot be ignored. The cuisine in Harper's Ferry directly reflects the harsh living conditions of a frontier region, where people had to rely on whatever nature provided to survive. Wild game, river fish, and simple baked goods are not just food, but the result of a lifestyle adapted to scarcity. Traditional apple pie and craft beers, often named after Civil War figures, become cultural markers that allow history to be tasted in a literal sense. From there, daily life unfolds. The residents here do not just live, they preserve and reenact history through everyday activities. The town is a key stop along the Appalachian Trail, where hiking culture, wilderness survival, and independence are embedded into daily life. Blacksmith workshops still operate, recreating historical metalworking and weapon-making techniques, while historical reenactments maintain accurate costumes, tactics, and settings, not for nostalgia, to preserve memory. The story did not begin with war, but with a radical idea. In 1859, John Brown led a small group to seize the federal armory in hopes of igniting a slave uprising. Failed, captured, executed, but the impact spread, becoming one of the direct causes of the American Civil War. After that, the town changed hands between opposing forces up to 8 times, with artillery and fire nearly leveling the entire area. In 1862, more than 12,000 Union soldiers surrendered in the Battle of Harper's Ferry, one of the largest defeats in U.S. military history. And when the war ended, nature continued the destruction with major floods in 1870, 1924, and 1936, sweeping away much of what remained. If observed from above, Harper's Ferry appears as a rare convergence point where the Potomac and Shenandoah rivers wind through the valley and merge at the point, surrounded by dark green mountain ranges. Lowering the view, the cliffs of Maryland Heights emerge, tall, steep, once home to heavy artillery, now silent, but still imposing. And stepping into the town, the space narrows into small streets, old brick buildings, and John Brown's fort, a small yet resilient structure, standing like a remaining punctuation mark of a story that has never truly ended. Not just a point on the map, Harper's Ferry exists as an intersection of memory and reality, where nature, history, and human experience continuously overlap. Are you ready to step into that space and face the echoes that still remain today? From above, Highlands appears as an isolated plateau situated on the Blue Ridge Mountains in southern North Carolina, where the average elevation reaches about 3,940 feet above sea level. This landscape is enclosed by steep cliffs, deep gorges, and dense temperate rainforest ecosystems. Headwater streams converge here before descending into the valley below, forming a closed terrain structure that resembles a cloud island suspended in mid-air. Each season in Highlands is not merely a shift in weather, but a complete transformation of the landscape. Spring brings a light green layer spreading across mountain slopes, accompanied by high humidity and rapid vegetation growth. Summer maintains dense forest coverage with frequent fog blurring the boundaries between cliffs and treetops. In autumn, the entire region turns into shades of red, orange, and yellow, before winter exposes the raw structure of rock as trees lose their leaves and the environment becomes still and nearly isolated. Clothing adapts to the highland climate, with thick coats, wool fabrics, and sturdy shoes suited for moisture and cold temperatures. In cuisine, grilled trout, stewed wild mushrooms, and mountain berries are used in dishes that combine refined techniques with natural ingredients. The coexistence of refined beauty and harsh natural conditions makes Highlands a place that resists a single definition. How would you feel standing in a space that is both peaceful and shaped by the volatility of nature? Are you ready to explore Highlands in your own way? Located deep within a valley in Swain County, North Carolina, Bryson City appears as a meeting point between river systems and the surrounding Smoky Mountains. At an average elevation of about 1,706 feet, the area is enclosed by the peaks of the Great Smoky and Nantahala ranges, with steep terrain, rocky ravines, and a network of small streams. The Tuckasegee River winds through the center before flowing into Fontana Lake, forming a geographic structure that is both enclosed and interconnected. In present-day life, Bryson City reflects a blend of indigenous heritage and later settler influence. A historic railway still operates through the center as a remnant of the industrial period. Residents maintain a lifestyle closely tied to the river and forest, where daily activities often take place outdoors. Clothing is practical, with durable fabrics and footwear suited to steep terrain. Local cuisine includes smoked trout from the Tuckasegee River, cornbread, wild honey, and various roots and plants used based on traditional knowledge. Approaching the area from the valley, the most noticeable impression does not come from scale, but from the gradual transformation of the landscape over time. Spring brings a light green layer across the slopes, while summer introduces dense fog and high humidity. In autumn, red, orange, and yellow tones dominate before winter exposes the raw structure of rock and river under colder conditions. Fontana Lake, set between mountain ridges, reflects these seasonal changes and becomes a strong visual focal point. History remains present within this space, while nature continues to change over time, making Bryson City difficult to interpret from a single perspective. How would you feel standing in a place where traces of the past have not fully disappeared? Are you ready to explore Bryson City? Along the Tug Fork River, Matewan stretches like a narrow strip compressed between the walls of the Appalachian Mountains. The river serves as both a natural border between West Virginia and Kentucky and the town's main axis of existence. Sandstone terrain, exposed coal seams, and roads clinging to mountain slopes create a closed environment where movement is constrained by geography. The rise and collapse of the coal industry shaped Matewan's history. In the late 19th century, the Norfolk and Western Railway turned it into a mining center. But corporate control led to conflict. In 1920, a gunfight between Sheriff Sid Hatfield and Baldwin Felts agents resulted in multiple deaths and sparked wider uprisings. At the same time, the Hatfield-McCoy feud reinforced the region's legacy of violence. Community identity in Matewan emerged from these harsh conditions. Residents are resilient, reserved, and deeply loyal, reflecting their mining heritage. Clothing is practical, with durable garments and sturdy boots. Culture centers on coal mining stories and Appalachian folk music. Food is simple and energy-rich, including sausage sandwiches, pinto beans with salted pork, fried apple pies, and moonshine, once common in hidden local life. From a distance, Matewan blends into the dark tones of mountains and river, making it difficult to distinguish from its surroundings. Up close, dark wooden houses, railroad tracks, and brick walls marked by bullet holes become visible. The Tug Fork flows slowly under low clouds, forming a quiet yet heavy atmosphere where every detail carries traces of the past. Without explanation, the remaining traces make Matewan a place where history does not disappear but settles. How would you feel standing in a town where every mark carries memory of conflict? Are you ready to explore this place? Hidden within the vast Greenbrier Valley, Lewisburg appears as a peaceful small town, supported by a complex limestone structure beneath its surface. Located in Greenbrier County in southeastern West Virginia, this area lies on a broad plateau with an intricate system of underground caves and natural sinkholes hidden beneath lush green fields. Surrounding the town are steep Appalachian mountain ridges and the Greenbrier River, winding through sandstone gorges to the east, forming a space that is both open and potentially unstable. Officially established in 1782, Lewisburg developed around Fort Savannah, a strategic outpost that protected settlers from Native American attacks. The town quickly became a cultural and educational center of the valley, thanks to the presence of institutions such as the Lewisburg Female Academy and the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine. However, it also witnessed traumatic events. In 1862, the Battle of Lewisburg took place directly in the streets, where hundreds of Confederate soldiers were later buried in a massive, cross-shaped mass grave. In the 19th century, epidemics caused by contaminated underground drainage systems, along with sudden sinkholes appearing within the town, created widespread panic and forced a complete restructuring of the urban foundation. From that historical background, the people of Lewisburg developed a distinct identity. Residents are known for their refinement, hospitality, and strong awareness of heritage preservation. The community includes intellectuals, historians, and long-established farming families, creating a balance between openness and tradition. Clothing tends toward elegance, reflecting a calm and thoughtful lifestyle. Cultural life centers on performing arts, notably Carnegie Hall, which has operated continuously. Cuisine reflects an upscale Southern style, including roasted chicken with butter sauce, creamy wild mushroom soup, and the well-known cherry tart made from local ingredients. Beneath its calm appearance, Lewisburg transforms with the seasons while maintaining its composed character. Spring spreads blooming rhododendrons across gardens, softening the historic brick architecture. Summer expands the landscape with vibrant green fields and clearer light across surrounding mountains. Autumn brings red and gold tones that deepen the visual presence of Georgia-style buildings. In winter, cold mist and light snow cover the town, emphasizing its quiet, enclosed structure and slowing the rhythm of life. The contrast between its elegant surface and the hidden layers beneath makes Lewisburg both beautiful and unsettling. How would you feel walking through a town where an unseen world lies directly beneath your feet? Not located along easily accessible routes, Big Stone Gap appears as a deep basin within the Appalachian Mountains in southwestern Virginia, where the three forks of the Powell River converge to form an enclosed valley. At an average elevation of about 1,640 feet, the area is surrounded by high rocky ridges, with a narrow mountain pass known as the Gap, acting as a natural corridor connecting two distinct regions while controlling nearly all movement through this terrain. Cultural life in Big Stone Gap revolves around artistic activities and storytelling traditions, with the outdoor play, The Trail of the Lonesome Pine, standing as a long-lasting symbol across generations. Bluegrass music and a strong sense of community appear in local gatherings, where shared memory maintains connection. Clothing is highly practical, including thick shirts, durable pants, and sturdy boots adapted to rocky terrain and changing weather. In cuisine, fried cornbread, pinto beans stewed with ham hock, and pastries made from wild raspberries reflect how people utilize available mountain resources. Developed from an area once known as Three Forks, Big Stone Gap entered a boom period in the 1880s when major coal deposits were discovered, attracting investment and labor with ambitions of becoming a large industrial center. However, this growth was quickly disrupted by the financial panic of the 1890s, leaving projects unfinished and many workers unemployed. In 1905, a coal mine explosion caused significant loss of life and left a lasting mark on the collective memory of the local community. Across different times of the year, the environment in Big Stone Gap shifts noticeably, forming layered landscapes over the same terrain. Spring brings a light green spread across the mountain slopes as water flow increases after seasonal rains. In summer, dense vegetation covers most rock surfaces while the air becomes humid and heavy. Autumn transforms the entire palette into shades of red, orange, and yellow, before winter reveals the raw structure of stone as trees lose their leaves and the space turns still. The interaction between memory and reality turns Big Stone Gap into a place that is difficult for any visitor to fully interpret. How would you feel standing among mountains, carrying both memory and the weight of time? Are you ready to explore this landscape yourself? Stretching across the windy Allegheny Plateau, Thomas and Davis sit side by side like two connected sections of an elevated space above the surrounding valley. Located in Tucker County, West Virginia, this area lies at an average elevation of over 2,950 feet, where flat terrain is sharply cut by the deep Blackwater Canyon and the amber-colored river flowing through it. Industrial ambition in the late 19th century defined the existence of these two towns. Developed by brothers Henry Gassaway Davis and Thomas Davis, the region quickly became a center for large-scale logging and coke production. Davis once led the world in timber output, while Thomas operated hundreds of coke ovens continuously. However, the 1907 mine explosion claimed many lives, exposing harsh working conditions and triggering conflicts. Later, overexploitation led to deforestation, prolonged fires, and when economic crisis struck, residents faced severe hardship. The community here formed through those upheavals, carrying a blend of resilience and creative freedom. Descendants of European immigrants merged with mountain spirit to create a society both cohesive and expressive. Clothing focuses on warmth and durability, suited to the highland climate. Culture has shifted toward the arts, with folk music in Thomas and craft brewing in Davis. Cuisine reflects labor origins with pepperoni roll, wild mushroom soup, and blueberry-based pastries from native bogs. Across the seasons, the landscape changes distinctly. Spring revives peat bogs and strengthens the Black Water's flow through the canyon. Summer thickens the red spruce forest, trapping moisture and maintaining cooler air. Autumn colors the slopes in red, orange, and gold, contrasting with the dark river. Winter blankets the plateau in snow, revealing terrain structure and isolating the region in silence. The layering of industrial remnants and natural recovery leaves the area in an unfinished state. How would you feel standing in a place both destroyed and reborn? Compressed between the mountain ranges of the Cumberland Plateau, Harlan forms a space tightly shaped by terrain and natural resources. Located in the southeasternmost part of Kentucky, the town sits at the convergence of three branches of the Cumberland River, where steep sandstone cliffs and dense broadleaf forests enclose a narrow valley that is nearly isolated. The presence of Black Mountain, the highest peak in the state, further emphasizes the sense of enclosure and separation from surrounding regions. The transformation from an isolated agricultural settlement into a coal mining center brought with it some of the most intense conflicts in American labor history. Established in 1819 and named after Silas Harlan, the area remained rural until the early 20th century coal boom reshaped it into a critical fuel source for industrial growth. During the 1930s, the period known as Bloody Harlan saw strikes escalate into assassinations, bombings, and gunfights between miners and company-hired forces. In 1977, a catastrophic flood, intensified by altered waterways from mining, devastated riverside communities and led to the construction of massive flood control systems and river diversion projects. The character of Harlan's residents has been forged through these harsh conditions. They are known for their toughness, strong sense of independence, and deep loyalty to their community, carrying pride in their mining heritage and survival through adversity. Clothing is highly practical, consisting of durable garments and sturdy boots suited for both labor and rugged terrain. Cultural life is strongly influenced by bluegrass music and Appalachian folk traditions that preserve stories of hardship and resilience. The cuisine reflects simplicity and energy density, including skillet cornbread, pinto beans cooked with salted pork, wild ramps gathered from the mountains, and the traditional multi-layered stack cake served during gatherings and celebrations. From a distance, Black Mountain rises like a massive shadow beneath low clouds, dominating the skyline and making the town appear small beneath it. As one approaches, red brick buildings from the coal era and scattered coal camp worker houses become visible along the slopes. Towering concrete floodwalls run through the town as both protection and a permanent mark of past disasters, creating a stark visual boundary between human intervention and natural force. Without the need for explanation, the layers of terrain and visible traces of history turn Harlan into a place where endurance and resistance are embedded in both land and community. How would you feel standing in a place where land, water, and people all carry the marks of prolonged struggle? Are you ready to explore this place? Burnsville is shaped first by topographic pressure rather than by any human planning. The entire area lies within the arc of the Black Mountains, where the highest peaks in the eastern United States form an almost enclosed natural boundary. At an average elevation of about 1,969 feet, steep slopes, ancient gneiss cliffs, and a dense network of headwater streams all converge toward the Cane River, giving the space a constant sense of compression without ever being static. The formation of Burnsville is tied to settlement waves in the 19th century, when the town was officially established in 1834 and named after Otway Burns. For a long time, mountain agriculture and mineral extraction became the two main pillars. However, as resources were gradually depleted and technology changed, mines closed in large numbers, leading to widespread economic decline. Major storms in 2004 and 2021 further exposed the fragility of the area, as flash floods and landslides destroyed communities along the Cane River and forced residents to restructure their way of living. The entire structure beneath the surface here once dictated how this land existed for decades. Veins of mica and feldspar distributed within the mountains were not only resources, but also the driving force behind a large-scale mining economy. When viewed from the valley, the layering of pasture, forest, and rock creates a distinct spatial depth, as if each geological layer preserves a separate fragment of history. It is this stratification that prevents Burnsville from being understood solely at the surface. Alongside those changes, community life gradually shifted in another direction, becoming less dependent on resource extraction. Artisans working with pottery, glass, and wood carving have become increasingly present, forming a distinctly local, creative ecosystem. Residents' clothing reflects flexible adaptation to the mountain climate, combining durable workwear with handcrafted details. The cuisine retains its Appalachian foundation with salted pork, stewed beans, cornbread, and wild apple preserves, along with herbal teas gathered directly from the mountain slopes. Burnsville exists as a space where multiple layers of transformation still overlap without being fully separated. How would you feel standing in a land where every change leaves a clear trace in both terrain and daily life? Are you ready to explore this place? Few valleys in Tennessee create such a clearly enclosed spatial feeling as Townsend, which lies entirely within Appalachia and is surrounded by the Great Smoky Mountains. At an average elevation of about 980 feet, this area opens as a rare flat basin amid steep and limestone-based terrain. The Little River flows through the center, both depositing fertile sediment and forming underground cave systems hidden beneath the surface. As one moves deeper into this space, the initial impression does not come from scale, but from a prolonged stillness. Meadows gradually extend toward the base of the mountains, while layers of fog frequently lower visibility, causing peaks to appear detached from the sky. Appalachian caverns open below, with formations built over millions of years, creating a parallel structure between surface and underground. Wooden buildings and old barns remain unchanged, standing as fixed markers within a slowly shifting landscape. Beginning in the late 18th century, hunters and settlers gradually moved into this valley after land once belonging to the Cherokee began to be opened. By 1900, Wilson B. Townsend established the Little River Lumber Company, pushing the area into large-scale industrial extraction supported by complex mountain rail systems. However, in the 1930s, the creation of Great Smoky Mountains National Park forced many communities to leave, leading to the disappearance of riverside villages. In 1994, a sudden flood destroyed bridges and structures, disrupting all connections across the region. In daily life, residents of Townsend maintain a slow-paced lifestyle closely tied to traditional farming and forestry. Wood-carving festivals, bluegrass music, and storytelling gatherings continue as part of shared memory. Clothing remains practical, with thick shirts, durable pants, and shoes suited for outdoor work. In cuisine, rainbow trout from the Little River, charcoal-baked cornbread, bean soup, and wild honey reflect a strong reliance on natural resources. Surface calm does not reflect everything that has taken place in Townsend, where nature and history continue to exist side by side. How would you feel standing in a space where everything seems to slow down but remains far from simple? Are you ready to explore this place? What distinguishes Wellsboro is not its scale, but the way space organizes itself into a closed system between forest and stone. Situated on a plateau in Tioga County, Pennsylvania, the area maintains an average elevation of about 1,969 feet, and is surrounded by temperate forests and winding limestone valleys. Adjacent to the town, Pine Creek Gorge cuts deeply into the land, forming an extended terrain structure with steep cliffs and complex water systems. Without needing to look far, the historical layers themselves define the development pattern of Wellsboro over time. In 1806, the first settlement appeared, and by 1830, it was officially established, quickly becoming a key hub for timber and coal transport. However, in 1889, a major flood destroyed logging camps and rail systems along Pine Creek, ending large-scale extraction. In the early 20th century, natural gas discovery brought rapid growth, but also conflict and accidents that left lasting impacts. Beyond its visible classical appearance, daily life in Wellsboro follows a slow and highly preserved rhythm. The Dickens Christmas Festival transforms the entire town into a 19th century setting where clothing, music, and social activities align with historical themes. Residents maintain a reserved yet stable demeanor shaped by Victorian influence. Local cuisine centers on forest products such as maple syrup, venison, and traditional Pennsylvania Dutch baked goods, forming a diet closely tied to local resources. A noticeable feature of this area is how space expands vertically rather than horizontally. Pine Creek Gorge stretches over 43 miles, with depths exceeding 984 feet, where forests shift in color seasonally and water flows along cliff faces. Within the town, Victorian architecture appears in red brick buildings, cast iron gas lamps, and tree-lined streets. The contrast between controlled urban space and surrounding wilderness creates a distinctive spatial balance. What remains in Wellsboro is not just scenery, but the layered traces of multiple historical phases within a single space. How would you feel standing in a place where beauty and transformation coexist without separation? Are you ready to explore this place? From this starting point, we take you to Helen, a small town in White County, nestled deep within the Blue Ridge Mountains in the state of Georgia, United States. It lies along the headwaters of the Chattahoochee River, surrounded by rolling hills and dense forests. A secluded space, a small town, yet it carries a distinctly European appearance in the heart of America. Before becoming a tourist destination, Helen was originally Cherokee land, later developed for gold and timber extraction in the 1800s. As resources depleted, the town declined and was nearly abandoned by the mid-20th century. Then, everything changed. In 1968, a bold decision was made to completely rebuild the town in Bavarian style. Bavarian style is a traditional architectural and cultural form originating from Bavaria in southern Germany, characterized by a blend of mountain practicality and handcrafted decorative aesthetics. But its history goes deeper. In the 1830s, this area was tied to the Trail of Tears, a forced migration that caused thousands of Cherokee deaths. Earlier, the 1910 flood devastated the early timber industry. Today, Helen represents a fusion of German culture and the American South. Timber-framed houses, steep roofs, and flower balconies are strictly maintained, as if a Bavarian village had been relocated across the ocean. Residents combine Southern hospitality with a serious commitment to preserving European architecture. The Oktoberfest here lasts for weeks, attracting thousands annually. The cuisine reflects this blend. Schnitzel, bratwurst, pretzels, craft beer, alongside southern staples like BBQ and cornbread, creating a culturally layered culinary landscape. The cobblestone streets open into a space that makes visitors almost forget they are in America. Colorful Bavarian houses line the river, while forested mountains stretch endlessly in the distance. Spring brings fresh greenery and mild air, with flowers covering balconies and pathways. Summer remains relatively comfortable due to elevation, and the river becomes lively with tubing activity. Fall transforms the forest into red, orange, and gold. In winter, occasional light snow dusts the rooftops, turning the town into a miniature alpine setting. A small town, a complex history, a place that feels out of place. How do you feel about Helen? Are you ready to experience this unusual cultural blend for yourself?